My friends, this week on WeTogether, we're bringing you a free taste of what our premium podcast, We² has to offer. If you like what you hear, head over to our link tree at linktr.ee/We2Gaming. That's we, the number 2 gaming, to check out the hours of content we have available for you. Enjoy this week's discussion between Charles, Sashel, and I as we talk about the tension between their characters and how it can affect a party. Thank you for listening to WeTogether, and we will return to the story next week. Now, let's get on with the show. What's going on, all my nerds, geeks, and tabletop freaks? It is I, Sebman, your GM for the We² podcast, the companion podcast to the WeTogether tabletop actual play extravaganza. And today, I got a couple of my players here. Say hi, players.
What's up? What's up?
Hello to the people who give us money. I love you.
That is Charles and Sashel, and we're going to talk today about a contentious table topic, something that plagues even the best of tables at times, something that, when handled correctly, can be a very compelling storytelling element. Party discourse. Party members fighting, party members not agreeing, party members not being on the same page. How do we handle it? And I brought my friends Charles and Sashel here to talk about it because if you listen to our podcast, their characters, Leo and Brika, tend to be some of the more contentious players in the party with each other. And I personally think that they handle it very well. I personally think that our party handles it very well. So I figured let's talk about how that dynamic grew, how that dynamic built, how it, started out being kind of a little for Charles, not for Sashel, because Sashel doesn't worry about anything usually. But for Charles, who was like, am I going too far? Is it too much? And the conversations that we had about that. And I figured we can kind of wrap it up nicely with some advice that you guys as players would have for other players that are in a contentious relationship with another player at their table. Does that sound good?
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
Yeah, this is a good one.
Yes.
I've got opinions on this. So it's
Let's start off setting the groundwork for this contentious relationship between Leo and Brika. I kind of want to start it right at the fucking beginning because there are maybe some things behind the scenes that people don't always understand, like Sashel not being able to make an episode, which is perfectly fine at our table. But the understanding is then if I don't get 24 hours at least, then I have freedom to then do what I want with your character while you're gone. 24
hours of notice.
Yes. Yeah. This is never like, I'm never trying to like make it a punishment, so to speak, but it's more of just like a little reminder. Hey, a little more than 24 hours is good, but I understand things happen, things come up, but you know what's going to happen if I'm in control of your character, probably something that you don't expect and are like. So I feel like this really started between Leo and Brika when Brika in the first episode, Sash, you took his crystal, which we now know, listening to the actual episode, the actual podcast is very important to him for a lot of reasons. And you decided in that first episode not to give it back on purpose. You made a point.
It was like so casual, but you did make a point to say.
I clock it because I'm always watching. Yeah. Creepy smile at camera. Now, at this moment, I knew that you wanted to keep it for a certain reason. I know your backstory. I was kind of there for your sessions. I was definitely there for your session 0. So I know like there's reasons that you have for wanting to keep the stone, but because of life, you couldn't make the next episode. And I'm not going to slow down the momentum. I left you guys on the worst cliffhanger. Like we got to continue the momentum, but now that means I'm in control of Brika. And Charles, you were very adamant that second episode about getting your stone back. And because I was in control of Sasha's character, and because I knew that she wanted to keep the stone for some reason, I personally had no idea. I was just excited to find out. I was literally like, I kind of want to see where that story goes. So then I made it so that Brika escaped with your stone. And that is where the start of it all kind of happened. Because if you remember, Charles, you were almost violent in that moment. Sasha wasn't there, so you can tell her about it.
Well, like I put myself in like a very precarious situation trying to pursue Brika because we had now, subject 0 at the time. We were calling him like Blood Demon guy. He had just let us out of these doors in like the most ridiculous Blood Demon guy way possible by like summoning dark hands from the abyss to tear the metal door down. Dude totally just had magic that could have opened the door, but whatever. And this happens, and I step out into the light, and I have this behind me. He just popped all those like poor people's heads. I step out, and my first instinct is to go chase you down. That's how important this was. And he like pulls me back by my, now I thought at the time it was like my nervous system. Probably was actually my like cardiovascular system. He like pulled me back by my cardiovascular system like it was a fucking leash. Yeah, so I put myself in quite the precarious situation, which by happenstance is also why I was able to get the blood crystal, because he was like used it to like calm me down.
Air quotes, by the way, on the calm me down, because it didn't.
Yeah, I was still a little heated.
Yeah, which this is like kind of the brewing. Sasha wasn't even here when it really started, the contention between Brika and Leo. But I did mention it to Sasha because I'm not an asshole. As funny as that would have been to let you go in blind with that, I was very forthcoming. I was like, hey, this is what I decided to do with Brika. She's technically stole the stone from Leo. Leo's not happy.
So actually, when you told me that, I was like, perfect. Because that was my plan anyways. I wanted that stone. I was going to steal it. I was not going to give it back. And that's where Brika's head was. She was like, ooh, stone. Nice. I don't know these other people. It was the first episode. I had no idea who Leo was. I'm a rogue and I'm obsessed with stones.
Right. It's like a really good, like, kind of like we already had our session zeros, which were like very different than I think your average start to a more traditional TTRPG campaign. And then following into like our episode 1 and 2, I think that's such a good flip on its head, because typically after a session 0, the party is now together and they like, for whatever reason, are in this together. For us, it was more like we are physically stuck together. And she's like, the fuck I am? I got magic, bitch. And she was out.
That's exactly right.
Hey, Sashel, I think you would have been very proud at how I fucking dipped out. Not only did you dip out, you turned the light off, you dipped out, and then you shut the door.
You locked the door.
Couldn't get out.
It sounds like perfection. It sounds like you did it better than I would have done it.
It truly was really good. It was very like succinct. It was just like basically you just flipped us off, turned out the lights, you're gone, and then we went to the door and we're like, what the fuck?
just fact checking here at this presidential debate. No, I'm just kidding. Just fact checking here. You did fluff. You floofed on her. You had your feathers out. You were you were intimidating, right? So I just felt like I reacted how Brika would react when faced with that kind of energy, which is like, fuck this shit. I don't even know you. Fuck you. Fuck your stone. I'm out.
Right. Like, to be honest, okay, I'm a rogue from the block. Like, and you just came at me. Yeah, I'm gonna lock your ass in with this blood demon and dip.
so without going too much on this, because we could talk about this moment for the entire episode because it was so funny. But when Sash came back, and you guys, the first, I think, real table moment that we had where contention was very real was at the safe house. When you guys made it to that safe house and reconnected, Charles, you were like, no time wasted. You guys looked around like, this is nice, huh. You guys looked around the house. I'm pretty sure Brika was hiding under the floorboards in the trap, right? You guys find her. The second that she's found, you're like, where's my stuff? So I just kind of want to talk about Sashel. In that moment, there's a lot of energy coming towards you. And you had some time to prepare for it because we talked about it off. But like in that moment, you had a choice to make, right? Like a player's coming at you. It wasn't exactly comfortable because Charles is great at role playing. So he was very upset. Like it felt like he was very upset. How did you handle that situation so that the contention could continue, but in a way that everyone felt like it was okay? You kind of like set the ground rules here.
So I actually think that I probably could have played that one better because I went, oh, he's being super stubborn. I am also going to be super stubborn.
Yeah.
Like I literally went head to head with Charles. Like I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, you had to straight up mediate.
Yeah.
That, or it would have been like player v player. Like it would have been PvP. Like we would have fought.
Well, I think I remember we were verbally arguing for like too long, and it was just going in a loop instead of like progressing forward. Which is like and that's a topic on its own within this realm.
Yes, absolutely. And we can totally
like it's like we could feel it as players where we're like, how do we both back out of it? Like we're looking at each other in the eyes, like how do we get ourselves out of this in character?
Yeah, it was absolutely like that. Because I was like, I want this to end, but I don't want to just, like, it's not like Brika, just be like, fine, you win.
And I think that because we were so early into the campaign, I think it was really important to both of you as players to make sure you were playing your character. Because you were still really figuring out who that character was. Yeah. Like, you're really in that early stage. So that's why the mediation, which is my only real point in this entire relationship between where I had to do this. This is the only time that I had to do this. I've had to do this on Sunday Group also a couple of times. When you are GM and you see two players being contentious, that is a stepping point, because you have to go, okay, what do I allow in my campaign? What do I allow? And we all know at WeTogether, we have an edict. There are very few lines that are too far in the service of telling a good story, right? And I really did feel like that moment, that contention, that tension at the table was telling a good story. It was telling a good story not only between the characters, but between the players themselves. But it got to a point where I could see both of my players going, I don't know how this ends. And as a GM, that's your whole job, is to tell them how something's going to end. So I decided PvP at my table, allowed. Always has been, always will be. I'm very strict about the rules. I'm stringent about the rules of PvP, but I do allow it as long as, like I said, it serves the greater story. It actually tells a good story. Now, am I going to let Ryan and Ant fight each other every episode because that's what their characters would do? Absolutely not. Am I going to keep a counter in my head since the last time they fought as a part of my decision whether or not that they should be able to fight? Yes, I will. So with Brika and Leo, in my head, I went, okay, this will probably never happen again. Like realistically, no matter the outcome of this moment, this is the pivotal moment. This is the moment where this relationship becomes something. So I decided, let the characters know the consequences of what they're going to do, but also give them the regency to choose to do it. So I stopped the moment, I paused the tension, I cut it, and I went, all right, Sash, at this point, you have to decide as Brika, because in this moment, it is very evident to you that this continuing is going to lead to blows. Leo looks like he is willing to fight for the thing that you have. How do you feel like that would affect Brika's decision-making in this moment? And that's where I kind of give credit to Sashel in that moment, because you could tell there was like a part of you that was like, this is important to me too. Like, this is like, I want to fight for this, but would I win?
It wasn't a would I win. So I think like, at that point, I think that you're right. That was a huge turning point, but it was whether, for me as a player, I had to decide, but also as Brika, if I wanted to make Leo my enemy. And I feel like right now we have like we're not enemies. We're not like, we're friends, but we're like sassy friends that like
You're
bicker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
we bicker.
as Troy would put it, we hit on each other. Yeah.
Right. Whole different level. But yeah, we bicker. But I feel like if at that point I would have decided to go to blows, like we would have had like a real issue within our party where Leo and I would have not liked each other.
Yeah.
Like right now we get annoyed with each other, but it's not that we don't like each other.
Yeah.
Like I feel like if that happened, it would have been really bad. So as a player perspective, that's kind of what was going on. But Brika also is not like super violent. She doesn't really like to fight. She just likes to have things. Like she wants to steal all the stuff. So
it's also like very
really
rogue to be like to steal the thing and never expect to be confronted about it. Like you got away. You thought you had gotten away.
Yeah,
right.
And then you guys were right up on me. I was like, "Fuck," you know.
It's like pretty rogue to be like, okay, fine.
Right, but I had to give a little push. That's kind of
that's the character.
I really feel like it gave Brika a level of respect in this party that is kind of unspoken. Like I feel like the party dynamic right now, like Pippin and Crash really serve as such a good like dramatic like comedy tragedy kind of like a thing where there's not a whole lot of, you don't expect a lot from them. You're just watching what they do in wonder. You know what I mean? But like when it comes to like, okay, all right, shit's gonna get real right now. We need a place to stay. We need fucking food. We need money. Who are you talking to? The two in the front seat, right? Like those two characters. And I really feel like Brika cemented herself as someone who has common sense, someone who can work with someone, but also someone who's not to be trifled with. And I think that set up a really good fucking dynamic, which leads me to the next moment where I think it was the next episode where in my mind, I of course wanted to push the story plot. Of course but I went, this is too juicy. This is too good. And as a GM, I was like, this needs to be the focal point. And here's a little tip for anyone who's GMing out there, especially if you're GMing with a group of role players like I have here. Don't plan anything. Don't give them anything. Stick them in a room and
the classic table scene.
Yep, and tell them that they have they're just gonna live. Just tell them do whatever you want. Nothing's happening, because that silence always brings out the core things. And I think this is where I have to commend Charles, because this is where like pivotally Charles had the moral high ground. Anyone and everyone could see it. Pippin was on your side. Crash was on your side. There was like obvious moment where you had the moral high ground, and I was watching you really closely to be like, okay, are you gonna push this anti-Brika sentiment to the point where it's gonna be a continuous contention? But I kind of want you to walk through for us, like the decision you ended up making was much more interesting, and I think it's because your contention with Pippin, which started that same episode, kind of led to this like weird healing between you and Brika.
Can you remind me I know what you're talking about, the Pippin part of it specifically.
Yep. After your kata?
Yeah. So after your kata, and Pippin was pissed at you because you didn't come back downstairs after you said you would.
Which, God, that is such
good
Troy comedy.
Such good. Oh yeah,
I love that so much.
And because he's a dog. Like you tell him you're gonna come back, and he doesn't come back. It was so good. So I was just like, I thumbs up. Yes, when he told me beforehand, because he was like, just so you know, Pippin's gonna be pissed that Leo didn't come back. And I was like, yeah, let's go. But then because Pippin was like being sassy and mean to you, you were like, I don't understand what this fucking dog is talking about. Like, does anyone understand? And then Brika kind of weirdly became the voice of mediation between you and Pippin. And then there was a moment where you released all this tension because you looked at Brika after Pippin said something dumb, and Brika looked at you and just kind of was like, yeah, it's dumb. I like you were like, oh my God, it's not just me. Like you're like, oh my God, it's not that.
I mean, you know what though? Like that's more, I think, less kudos to me and more kudos to Troy being, I think he's our natural mediator in any of the campaigns we play. As a person, that's what he is. And I mean, because we don't need much mediation as a group, due to our dynamic, he uses it in a completely different way here, where he uses it more like for comedic timing and stuff like that, which I think is a strong suit of his. And he capitalized on an opportunity to break tension by making it silly, and then we were able to kind of bridge a gap there. That we can see the opening that he's provided for us. We know the dynamic well enough. I'm going to latch onto that. And I took it a step further by giving, like a physical representation of that, like the mediation there. I was like, okay, you know what? We started off on the wrong foot. I think I literally said that. It seems like we're in this together. We could have been enemies. Let's go ahead. Me and you will make a deal right now. We'll get off the high horse. We'll get off our moral high grounds. I'll give you a stone in return for a stone, basically, right? Obviously, Seb abused that later down the road for story reasons. But I still think I went into that. I had wrote that down. I think I had written down 3 or 4 things, and that was like the top one on the list. Was like, at some point in this session, I have to give that crystal to Brika, as like a. I think this has happened multiple times throughout the campaign, where Brika, she's being super sassy and she's holding on to something like this, like minute grudge, and like truly, like I think Leo really thinks has the moral high ground for almost all of it, because he's like, he could look at anybody else in the group and be like, she's in the wrong here, right? And he'd probably be correct, but he's always trying to like kind of bridge that, like, hey, we have to do this together. So like, I'm going to keep like putting the first foot forward, and you always take the second step with me. And I think that is a huge part of why this dynamic works, is because you are willing to see my first step and follow it, and not. It's that moment right there where you said, whenever Seb was like, okay, there's a lot of tension here. What's your next step? And you're like, I could be stubborn, but for the sake of the story and for the sake of this dynamic, I'm going to take the step that he presented. So I think that's, as players, I don't think that's for everybody. And I think there is something to be said about, like, if we continued that tension and it wasn't broken for many, many more episodes, I think it could have built into something cool and wholly unique, But I think because we've played together before, we have the experience, we know what we're looking for, kind of.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that our relationship in the story, like a lot of the times you are the one that's like, hey, this. Whereas because you come from a place of like Leo comes from a place of like an emotional connection. Everyone else in the party is like emotionally bonded. You guys all love each other and, whatever.
Trauma bonded.
Like, yeah. Brika is coming from a place of logic. So a lot of the times when I say things, it sounds like I'm just kind of being a dick. Like,
I wonder where you get the
well, hold on. That's not fully true. Sometimes you are just being a dick.
100%. Sometimes I am.
Like, I as a person,
your inspiration for Brika is Saj.
I as a person and as a player come from a logical point, and I role play an emotional character. But I know where you're coming from.
Yeah, it's really funny because like you put the first foot forward, like you said, and then I follow. But then sometimes I'm like, yo, that is the wrong foot. Like, stop.
Yeah.
Stop trying to stop.
Yeah.
And you call it out. And I think that's cool.
I think Charles has gotten a lot better since the Thalen days of kind of being like, all right, maybe this thing that I want right now isn't going to be the thing right now. Like, but the cool thing about this campaign that you kind of come to learn and adapted very quickly to is I will never not give it to you. Like you will, whatever you were trying to get in that moment, you're gonna get that chance. You just have to trust that it'll come back around to that. And I think Leo is a really good example of like delayed gratification. Like just that like slowly building, because you started off as one of the characters that I was most like, I don't really know how I'm going to latch Leo into this story, how I'm going to get him invested in the story, to now being probably one of my favorite storylines that we haven't gotten to explore yet.
No, I think that's a great point. But to be honest, one of my favorite moments in the campaign thus far is Brika telling Leo, if you pull over, I will blow us up.
That is so quintessential for the group dynamic, is that moment right there. Because it's like, I think in my head, there's a couple of Seb always says like we're the door group. We always like have this like run in with a door because of like past campaign moments and stuff like that. And technically we started off that way in this game with two separate door incidents. But I think we more in this group, weirdly enough, we're like a round table group. Like this, that dynamic keeps happening. And then also the car dynamic. And like, that's like, if I would have kept pulling over for discussions, like I would keep doing that because I think it's funny as fuck that it keeps happening. So I'm gonna keep doing it in character. But for you to like call it out in like such a real way, like really just put your foot down, like I'm sick of this. I think it was so quintessential for like how this plays out.
Yep. And I think it
had to get done.
Dude, the reason I say that was peak is like that moment for me as the GM, I literally was like, oh, we're here. Like the dynamic has arrived. Like we have gotten to a place now where contention is not a bad thing ever. Like you guys will always handle it well. I don't have to watch. I don't have to worry. I'm looking at you, Sunday group. And I'm just kidding. They love each other. They're all so nice. But I'm literally going to every Sunday session. Like, is today the day where two of them murder each other? Like, but it's fine. They're doing really well, like meshing together as a team. But
some groups it just takes like, okay, I think it, as I've been playing for a long time, you guys have been playing for a while together. Like, I think if I can give something to anybody here, especially GMs who are trying to like mediate, like he's talked about earlier, like it'll take a variable amount of time for any group dynamic, much like real life, for like the bumps to kind of even out. I've played with this group for actually now a year, almost to the day, and specifically with Sashel from the very beginning, and we've had that year to kind of like bump out, like go get through the bumps, because like I play very I play very like loud characters, like they have their opinions, and she plays very stubborn characters. So like those two things, like they hit each other in the face a lot of times, and I think you're going to run into that in your campaigns. You're going to run into the other thing where it's like two meatheads who just want to like throw rocks at each other all the time, and like those things are fine. You just have to find a way forward, and that could take a while. But there's a story in that, and I think that's the thing I'm trying to get at here. Is like there could be a story in the contention, like in the tension at the table. If you play your cards right, you could come out way ahead.
Yeah, I completely agree. I also just want to, like, Charles, I just realized, yes, we have been playing together like since your beginning with this group.
Yeah.
And almost every single one of our character duos were at odds with each other. Yeah,
Smog and Thalen were more just like, we don't care that the other one exists.
Right.
Yeah, Thalen's like, I'm going to do my thing. Oh, yeah.
Thalen Wasana.
No, but see,
I was warned about that dynamic.
Wasana, yes, I did get ahead of that one. But Wasana didn't even care that Thalen existed until Thalen became a responsibility. Once it became like, where's Thalen? Like once it became like, we have to watch him.
Right, because that dude does crazy shit.
Yeah, but okay, so for Wasana, Thalen was like that friend you bring to the club. Like my brother, when, we went to Mojo's, and he was a liability. He threw me off my game. In more ways that we're
not going to say it on.
We're not. I wasn't going to get into details.
But yes, he was very much a liability.
Thalen became a liability because this man would just say whatever was on his mind.
In a not Pippin way.
And he thought he had the power to back it up.
Right. In a not Pippin way. In a way where it's like, it's all insignificant. It doesn't fucking matter to me at all. And like a lot of the stuff he would say is like, it matters to someone else. Like
literally everything he did, he thought he was changing the world, and he would make big moves to make that happen against everybody else's wishes. Everybody be like, dude, no, not right now.
No, we have a bigger threat to fight. Thanos like, I don't give a fuck. I'm trying to build this machine. But yeah, no, like you guys have kind of always, as players, been odds, but not because of like a player dynamic. It's always been a character dynamic because Wasana and Thalen are both big personalities, whereas Brika and Leo are both big personalities. And I kind of wanted to talk about that in the sense that like especially with Brika, I feel like your duality, like when you have like the one side that's kind of quiet and is polite, and then you have the other side where you're like, I'm gonna blow this car up if you fucking pull over. That kind of, I felt a moment of understanding from Charles and Leo when they met Frank and found out that Frank was the person that raised you.
Dude, if you remember it, that actually went over Leo's head.
That went over Leo's head in the moment, and then when we told him later, you were like, and then also Brika says often, I can't count how many, probably fucking at least 5 times, I grew up with Frank. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think he's gotten it at this point, but I do think it kind of, some people will say Brika can be a dick, but like where Brika grew up, and then without getting too much into it, just from knowing Frank, like you have to have thick skin. Like it's a part of living in the block. Even how many fucking NPCs have told you guys to fuck off at this point? Like it's a part of
all
living
of
in
them.
The block. And I feel like inherently, Leo has very thin skin. So I think that's
takes it all personally.
The foundation of the contention is Leo. Well, first of all, stealing his stone is obviously anybody would be pissed off about that. That's not a thin skin moment. It's just like moving forward. The contention almost always comes from Leo being like, no, like this, I want to talk about it. This doesn't feel right. This doesn't make sense. Don't you want it to make sense? And fucking Brika is like, bro, nothing in this world makes sense. I've been here my whole life. Nothing makes sense. Like, just fucking, you ride with it and you try and survive. And I feel like that has made Leo, that lesson, which is Leo, we are uncovering Leo kind of learning in real time here, is my single most favorite like storyline going on right now.
Yeah.
Like watching Leo become a Luna, like a Lunarian, not a Lunite. Yeah. Excuse me, a Lunarian. It is such a compelling character arc already without having to try. It was birthed in this contention.
Yeah, because we had a long discussion during character creation stuff, where I basically told you I'm not going into this somewhat purposefully with like a character, like with the character in mind, like his character. I knew what his past was. I knew kind of what his trauma was, and like all these kind of like little things that built up to who he is as a person. But I didn't go into it with like, this is who Leo is. I had like a small document. Basically, it was along the lines of like he doesn't trust people until he does, and then he was really in it. Yeah. As you've seen. So I think like that was like right out the gate is that dynamic, and I learned who the character was through tension. And as a player, that's fun for me because that's pure role playing, and I do think that actually works really well in like in person campaigns because you can feel body language a lot easier and whatnot. But also that goes the other way too, is like it can get more tense because you're both like very emotionally driven. In previous groups I've played with, I still play the same way, regardless of the people I'm playing with. And sometimes that comes to like real blows because the people I'm playing with don't have the kind of ability to switch into role playing mode, and you let it slide off their back. So it can come to blows sometimes. And, I think if you're a player out there and you're struggling with that, just recognize that like, you're all at the table to have fun with each other and like,
tell the story, man.
That's right. But that's not the point I'm trying to make here. What I wanted to say actually is I think this last episode, I believe it was the last episode here. Whenever we got to the garage and we all went inside to get the bomb defused, but it turns out we were actually just getting our fucking implants worked on. There was a moment in there where Brika basically was like, he is super paranoid all the time. Just by the way. And I walked in and I was like, yeah, so I'm the really paranoid guy. And just like, I think the dynamic has built up to the point now where Leo recognizes his flaws within this like new world that he's in. They've told him time and time again, they've called him out on these things. Like you just had to get over. You just have to ride the wave here. You know, you can't think about everything too much. And now he's like almost like calling it on the nose. Like, yes, I am paranoid. Yes, I do need to talk through things, and you guys don't believe in that. But I recognize me as a person. I still need that, regardless if you don't think it's okay.
My friend, you know what just occurred to me?
What's that?
Have you ever watched The Office?
Yes.
Bro, are you Dwight?
Dude, I knew you were going to say that. Fuck you.
Are you Dwight? Wait. Hold on. Then that would make Crash Jim Halpert.
No.
Yeah.
Why would that make him Jim?
That would probably make.
I think that'd be Brika.
Yeah, Brika would be Jim. But here's the thing: the reason why I wanted to give it to Crash was for the look at camera moments.
He does
like that is such a Crash thing where like something horrible, or you guys are arguing about something stupid or whatever, and then one of you says something that's like wildly just like, what the fuck? I just see Crash looking directly at camera, be like, what the fuck? But Brika also could fit that. Those shoes, but then does that make Pippin Michael Scott?
Always breaking tension,
bro. I could. So does that make Crash Pam? Oh, I just started more contention. No, I just think my whole point with like it's just the comparison. Charles is right. Contention sometimes it needs to be handled delicately. Sometimes you have to really like take the time. So ultimately, what comes down to, in my opinion, is patience. Everyone, as long as every person understands that this game is emotional. Every good D&D game is, or TTRPG game is. It's emotional. Whenever emotions are involved, sometimes you can have uncomfortable ones. Sometimes like it's not even a matter of like you meant to do it. It's just a matter of you're trying to play your character, and like all of a sudden now you find yourself in a situation where you as a person wouldn't necessarily even want to be in. If all of you agree to have patience with each other and kind of figure out like sometimes maybe you're not going to get what you want out of your character moment, but being able to be open with that with your GM, or being able to be open with that with your other players, allows for an even more beautiful thing to happen, which is what I think Brika and Leo is. I don't ship them like Pippin does, but
I'm not gonna lie, that's such a weird dynamic.
It's such a weird ship.
It's a weirdness.
It's such a weird ship. I actually ship Pippin and Crash personally. Personally, I think that's a more compelling ship. But you know, hey, argue in the Discord. WeTogether gave me a Discord. But I feel like because we've all kind of given each other that space, your characters have grown into such fucking compelling, emotional characters. And like, I couldn't have asked for a better level 1. Like if we are leveling up soon and we are kind of moving out of that level 1 realm, I genuinely feel like the contention and the way that we handled it and the patience ended up being the reason why we are where we are today.
I mean, truly, like if we're looking at it like that, like our level 1 was not leveling up our physical abilities like you get in, again, traditional TTRPGs. It was leveling up our emotional abilities and our dynamic. Because if you all have been listening this whole time, we've made no fucking progress at all in any capacity. We're
around the corner from where we started.
Literally. We have not completed a single mission that we got day 1. So with that being said, I think that our level 1 has been building a group dynamic, and I'm not going to pretend like that's going to change knowing our group.
Agreed.
But I think that is the almost the value that Friday group kind of brings to the table.
I do want to just talk about another value that I think we have as players, and it kind of touches on your patience, but like there's certain things, like everyone comes into the episode and they're like, ooh, I want to do this. But a lot of times, because things move, in a way that's unpredictable, because,
as
random stuff
TTRPGs
happens.
go.
Yeah, so we're like, ooh, we want to do this, but then maybe we can't, and we let it go. We're like, okay, well, we might bring it up later, or we might just like let it be, one of those what if moments, and I think that as players, that's a really beautiful thing that we do because it allows the story to progress in the most natural way, in a way that like it's not weird, like we're not like, oh wait, back then I wanted to do this one thing and it didn't really make sense at the time, it didn't make sense with the story. So I'm glad we don't do things like that, and it keeps the immersion and kind of like makes it so that like real life, there's no turnbacks. Like you can't just go back in time and do these things.
I think part of that is like kudos to you guys for having patience with me. That's like a really good ending lesson for at least a GM listening to this going, there are two players at my table who are arguing and I don't know how to like, I am a very kind and benevolent ruler, but I am a ruler. Like, and I'm not saying that as a power trip. I'm saying that as a like, I know when to say no. Like
if someone wants
keep
the story going forward. And
I'm not very. We don't like. No one's taken me to court yet. Maybe as of recording this, who knows? By the time it comes out, but like, I'm very, very much like, no, you can't have that right now. I'm not going to tell you why. I'm not like, and sometimes I will, if you're very adamant about it. But for the most part, I'm not going to tell you why. I'm not going to tell you any reason. You just have to accept that I'm going to say no right now. And
it's a
then,
trust thing.
It's a very much a trust thing. And your players having patience with you as a GM, being able to do that, it often resolves a lot of contention before it even begins. Because like, I'm very capable of being like, Charles, this episode is not about you or Leo. So just take a backseat for now, and I promise I will make it up to you.
He does say that after recording.
and I'm telling you right now, we haven't gotten to it yet. As of right now, they are in the garage. Remember that, all listening audience, they're in the garage as of recording right now. Yeah. So if this comes out after that episode and you already know what happens next, join me in laughing. If not, just wait. Because it is all coming back around, baby. It is all coming back around. And I think that is all only possible because of our patience with each other, our trust with each other. This is a game that involves emotions. It is a relationship. When you get into a D&D party, people don't always understand that. Like you enter into a relationship with somebody when you're in a D&D party, what makes or a TTRPG party. Sorry, wizards.
I'm trying my best. I'm doing pretty good though.
I'm doing horrible.
I just don't refer to the game. So
yeah, right.
That's so meta.
So that's so fucking based. So he's
better than us.
When you realize that you are entering, that's why obviously. Consent can be such an important thing. That's why you have those conversations before you start playing, because you are entering into a relationship.
You have real emotions attached. Like,
yeah, just like
the consent is even valuable within this role playing sphere simply because you are a person
exactly
behind the character.
Exactly.
You're still human.
And talking about that is always so important, but also like understanding, like, just like with a relationship, sometimes you have to be selective with who you're entering in a relationship with. And I know that's not always easy to hear or do because, some people play with who they got. Some people only have one way to play. But, there's a lot of options out there. Please sponsor us. You know who you are. There are a lot of options out there that you can find tables and don't be afraid to walk away from a table that.
Yeah, you really got to pick your battles. I wouldn't be able to play with a group of strangers who just wanted to hit shit constantly. I've walked away from those tables already.
I'm not gonna lie. No. I can barely play with Sunday group.
Listen, I've said that out of recording, but I agree. They just love hitting shit.
I can't wait for the feast. This is
imagine Leo in Sunday group pulling over the car for a conversation.
They would have killed you. Like what?
No. Oh no. No. You pulled over the car. they would.
Yeah, but other things would have happened. There would have been no conversation. Nothing would have gotten resolved. You wouldn't feel any better.
Well, to be fair, that same thing happens in Friday Group, but like through role playing.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Nothing
But
is
I'm
resolved,
talking-
and Leo doesn't feel better.
And this is just because I have the unbiased view of both of you guys. I think Sunday Group would surprise both of you. However, every problem that you come up against that's not inner party problem would be immediately met with violence. That is, and it's not even just a hit shit kind of way. It's a intimidate over persuasion. You know, like you know, they are a force. Now,
Yeah.
Sometimes as a role-playing heavy character, it's fucking awesome to walk around with a party full of people who could fuck shit up. And then they are also pretty they're also pretty good about role-playing when it comes to it. Like they role-play a decent chunk. So if we took any of the Friday role players and put them into Sunday Group, I think it would fundamentally change how Sunday Group moves. They would just still be as violent. They would still be violent, but you would still have that inner party relationship thing going on. You'd still Leo and Scald. That's a conversation I would love to see.
We'll see it at the feast, won't we?
Oh yeah, this feast is going to be, guys. You have no idea. Like I'm struggling so hard to hold it in, but I want to release it all at the same time, so you all have the same exact amount of time to prepare. That is the thing. But oh my god!
Again, patience. I'm a patient motherfucker.
And trust.
I trust, and I will have, and I will wait for the sweet release. To be fair, I am the kind of person who saves the best thing, the best bite for last every single time. So I just love that, like sweet dopamine, but like the build up to it's so valuable.
I like people. I get my dopamine from sharing things that I've made with people. So it's like perfect symbiosis. Because I'm literally like, look at what I made, and you guys are like, whoa, and I'm like, oh yeah.
I had some commentary on Sashel's thing from earlier about like coming in with an agenda. You come into a session with an agenda.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think any player who really kind of takes their homework home with them after the session probably does this. You sit in the shower, you get in your character's head. How am I going to handle this dynamic or this situation that we're in right now or into the future, whatever? You're writing down some like ideas. You write down like some agenda stuff. Some of you might only worry about leveling up things, and that's fine. Good for you. But you go into it. I have on camera thrown away 3 sheets of lists of not necessarily threw away because I'll come back to them one day, but like these ideas that I have that I want to bring into the next session or whatever, because it doesn't go that way. And if you as a player find yourself in a position where you are making those happen anyways, you are doing the thing that people have been crying about since TTRPG started getting played. It's railroading. It can come from the player side as well. I have grown. I feel like I probably used to do that whenever I was much younger and less experienced, as like the kind of bog standard party face. Kind of, I move a lot of plot forward. So I think I just cranked my gain by accident. I'm
right,
so
this is what
loud
you
now.
get over on the Patreon. Live
But yeah, I think, just be careful. Like, look back, have some introspection. Like, am I, putting myself first every time? That could be part of why, there's extra tension at the table. There's a lot, tension can build over time and people can start getting annoyed by the little things that, and I think how you deal with that is one, again, introspection, kind of checking yourself every now and again. But take that introspection, bring it to the table, have that conversation. I've had a conversation with these guys a couple of times now, especially towards the beginning, where I was like, hey, I'm playing a brash character. I'm playing somebody who thinks he's the main character here. I need to double check to make sure that that's going well. I also need to just let you guys know that I, as a player, am playing a character here, and it's not me who is fresh-faced at this table. I promise I'm not like this all the time.
Yeah, the balls it takes to come
true.
to a table with Thalen.
Dude, for real. That's just,
Literally.
again, and we're saying all of this as people with years of experience. And I promise you, if you are relatively new to this, or you just don't get to do it very often, but you've been playing for years, like this just comes with experience. It comes with both experience in the game, in life, because you're building up your social ability, and also like within the group that you're in. Like if you're just kind of like bouncing around groups, like you're just kind of joining randos or whatever, you might just have this unresolved tension that you can't kind of fix. You might have to walk away from that.
Yeah.
Or take yourself out of the situation because you could be the problem, and then come in to a new one, like, okay, I'm gonna try something new this time. I'm gonna try to take a step back. I'm gonna try to not put my agenda first. I think having both the self-awareness to see it first, and then the confidence to go to your people and have a real conversation.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, communication's key, as they say.
That's true.
It's a relationship.
The relationships. But I also think that even if you play like a brash character or a character that's always wanting to be in the front, like knowing as a player when to just bring it back, because this is a multiplayer game, and you're not playing a one player RPG. Like that's not what this is. So you have to let other people kind of take the spotlight sometimes. Like even like our party, we have the Pippin party every episode,
And it's so beautiful.
I love it. But I also like the fact that like in our more recent episode, we put Pippin in the background. Crash was very much up in front, and we got to learn even a lot more about Pippin. And I'm sure Pippin got to learn a lot more about Pippin because it wasn't always him making the decisions. Letting someone else make the decisions allowed some growth in his own character development and how the party perceived his character.
And I also, a very brief comment in there is you could also look at that as, from a GM's perspective, you can reward that. And that might be what we're looking at here.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I reward three main things. Creativity is my number one. Just at my table. I'm not telling you that this needs to be your table. At my table, creativity is king. Second, honesty. I prefer a table full of people who are willing to be honest. Part of what Charles was saying kind of ties into that honesty aspect of being able to have that conversation with me, or come to me after and be like, hey, I feel like I haven't really gotten a spotlight in so long. Is this on purpose, or is this? And then the third thing is patience, because I reward those three things. So like coming up, the next couple episodes are going to be very Brika and very Leo forward. I can tell you that without really spoiling anything. It's pretty obvious where you guys are at right now. But I don't think that Crash nor Pippin really feels like they are being ignored in any way, shape, or form. And because Leo has been so patient since the beginning, really, we haven't really focused in on Leo's world yet. In 20 episodes at this, maybe 15 episodes at this point. So that patience, in my mind, is like, okay, that's worth rewarding. He's been honest about like where he is, like the things he wants, and he's been fucking creative with how he's been using his character. 1, 2, 3, we're about to have like a 3-episode arc that is going to change your lives. And that comes from just being like, again, we say trust, but we've compared this to a relationship plenty of times now. Like, trust is vital. It's vital for the relationship to work. If you're at a table and you don't feel like you can trust at least the GM, if not the people you're playing with, my suggestion is almost always go your own way, and you will find people that you can like. It's guaranteed.
It took me a decade to find my people.
I agree.
A decade, bro.
I played for a decade with various groups of people, and I love the people I've played with. Love them as they're some of my closest friends. The way I play, it didn't gel. And I found this group, and boy, do I gel.
Yeah, no, but I want to say like now you're right though. It's not only trust in the GM, it's also trust in the party. Like we know, like we're not gonna like yes, Brika stole Leo's stone, you know.
She's not doing it to hurt me as a player.
Yeah, but it wasn't like negative for you, like on purpose. Yeah.
Mhm.
So it was just like Brika doing her own thing, and then you happen to be offended by it.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah. You know,
But also like
if you're playing if you are a person playing, if you find yourself doing something maliciously towards another player, you lost the thread.
Yeah, you lost the plot.
You know, and that goes for the GMs out there. I know some of you GMs out there. You do something malicious and you might regret it later. Just probably don't do that. That's not gonna. You're at the table for fun. It's not a job.
A little bonus.
Right.
BTS
if you
content, I never do anything malicious that I don't tell you I'm about to. I literally go, I'm about to hurt you if you don't stop doing what you're doing.
It's not malicious. That's just how he gets off at night.
No, but like you want to do an all party kill, like do it, but then make it a dream. Like
send them all to hell.
Yeah, dude. Like I genuinely feel like people listening to this might not. Might be walking away going, well, that didn't fucking help.
We didn't get anything out of that.
Right.
You told me if I'm mean, do not play the game.
Yeah, if you feel that way, walking away and you feel like you have to go to a table where you can't, like that's your only table that like you have no other option, you feel that way, truly. Try going an entire session without saying anything and see what happens. I think that listening is a skill that not a lot of people understand is a skill. And I think that not a single person, not I, not Charles, not Sashel, not anyone here at WeTogether, not anyone I know, couldn't benefit from learning how to listen better.
I think a good example of that is I told you before we started in character building, Leo was not going to be anything close to a party face. And I, as a player, can't keep my mouth shut. I tried so hard.
And then what happens? So Leo ends up at the butt end of most jokes.
That's true.
That's what I get for it.
I heard you.
But the thing is I feel like to be honest, like Leo probably, maybe it's because of his ignorance of the block, but I feel like he's gone through the most like developmental change,
culture shock.
Yeah, because he's learning like a child. Like he's just learning everything from scratch. Like everything is completely different.
Does that make
from
you
what
my
he's
mom?
Used to.
Actually, I think Pippin,
weird dynamic.
I think you're your dad. I think Pippin is your mom.
Okay.
Perfectly honest.
Yeah, okay. I'm definitely the dad.
Come home last night.
Well, that's still a weird shit.
I was worried about you. What were you doing in your room?
Oh my god! Just searching for the sock.
Oh no!
Why was there a sock on your door? I took it and buried it in the yard.
and then Brika just like, yeah, you're worrying. We're all worried. Shut the fuck up and deal with it. Like
Life
keep
sucks.
it inside.
Get a job.
Walk it off.
Walk it off.
Bro, yeah, that's the dynamic right now. Leo, beyond certainty, is the baby face. But
what does that make Crash like the like cool knowing uncle. Older brother?
Sure.
He's the cool uncle.
Crash is the cool uncle that does drugs and passes out at the dinner table sometimes.
But it's also like somehow a good role model.
Yeah, that got real fast.
I didn't have these dynamics in my life, not at all.
Never once. But
no, this isn't based on reality.
I genuinely think that you guys were the perfect people to talk to about this. I think that we have many more moments in store that are going to kind of bring contention, not just from player to player, but even from story elements. You never know, like what in the future is going to come between the party, as we know from Campaign 0. If you are a listener of this Patreon, you may or may not already know. Because I still have all that shit. I still have like 400 hours of unlistened.
So much gameplay.
Hey, you get a lot of content though. So
hey, man, like honestly, I love making it. I'm really grateful for you guys. to talk to you guys about this and like do this We². The second Charles was like, "Hey, let's do a We²," I was like, Sashel and Charles. I think I have.
What could we possibly talk about?
Topic.
I was like, because I mean, I was like, we could just all hang out together. Like that's
This is what we would have every time we hang out. We have a We² podcast. All that changed is we turned on the fucking recording.
It happens so often. It'll be like 2 a.m. my side, East Coast, and it's like we're still talking about the game 3 hours after our Famos, and we're like, we should have just fucking recorded it. We knew we should have.
Just fucking recorded. Now I did. I'm learning. See, I'm learning. I would like to end this episode with something a little different. I kind of want to have a Famos, but if you can humor me, your favorite Brika Leo moment that like contentious moment that happened. You can take a second, think about it. I'll tell you
Actually,
mine.
while we're thinking about that, I wanted to say this at the beginning, but I forgot about it. But I still think it's funny enough to bring back up again. We were talking about like how you handle something at the table and like do you do it like rationally. In my head, I was picturing Matt Mercer and Sam out of Critical Role, like getting into contention in the game and being like, we're gonna take this outside, bro. Like those two just like fucking duking it out.
What the fuck?
Yes.
I think okay, but I think that's a good just plot point before we kind of like get into like the quote unquote Famos is like, if you are listening to this, to Friday group specifically, I can't really say much for Sunday because I don't really we're not allowed to listen to them.
Embargo.
If you listen to your Dimension 20, your Critical Role, the kind of the big players or whatever, the thing that you probably love about them, even if it's they do fun things or funny or whatever, and they have cool fight scenes or whatever, but like the thing that you truly probably love is that you get to fall in love with every character at the table. They all share it. They all share the spotlight. They all have conversations outside of the game where they're kind of like building up, this trust and patience and dynamic with each other. And you can guarantee that they're all communicating to each other because they love the game. They love the story. So if you have any takeaway from this at all, just, recognize what this is. It's a game that we all are very passionate about. You specifically love it enough to pay money to listen to us talk about it for an hour plus. If you could take anything away, it's like you're sitting at a table with your friends and you're playing a game, and if there's problems at the table, it can be dealt with in a healthy way. And if it can't, you walk away, and you go find somewhere else that makes you happy. It's as perfectly fine.
Hey, come here. We got a Discord. I'm sure by this point, hopefully we got enough people here who are here to play. So come on down.
You can. Yeah. How could they? So like, do you think that maybe they could like play in our world or something because you've released a bunch of information that they could use as like a guide?
Oh,
I mean, if they really wanted to, they could head over to our Discord where we would have. Honestly, I shouldn't. As much as I love the lob, if you're here an hour and a half, hour and 10 minutes into a We² podcast you had to pay to listen to, I'm pretty sure you're on our Discord.
Okay, but specifically within the Discord, they can access what we call the Iris Luna Bible. There's a lot of other just information, generally speaking, within here.
Pictures, notes. If you're a top tier patron, you get to see the neural links between our players. So you get to see their conversations that they have with each other. All kinds of cool shit that I feel like if you're a fan and you just kind of want to dive into this world and create your own story, I know for myself, and I know I can speak for several members of this group, would absolutely love to hear them. So please, share, be creative,
this
be
story,
honest.
You've only seen this world from the lens of 8 people. I promise you, it is so much richer than what we can give to you right now at this point in the story. It's so rich because there's 9 people building a world collectively. And we think that, if you jump in and add your part to this world, like it's going to be that much richer. Like you have Seb here. I'm sure it requires paying an X amount of money, but you could probably send him straight questions. Hey, what's this thing on level 3? what's over here in B23? Just out of curiosity, shit like that. So
that sounds like a tier 1. That sounds like a tier. I would like that to be available to as many people as possible, but I don't have the time to make it free.
Use a busy boy.
If it was free, that would become my all-consuming dopamine. I'd replace Instagram with
literally, guys. I DM this guy with like a world-building thing, and it turns into a 3-hour back and forth.
It turns into a We² podcast. You've probably heard several at this point. But I'll start with the Famos because I never get to.
Nice.
My absolute Famos of Leo and Brika is every time you guys go through a drive-through line. I personally, it just hits in such a sweet spot for me. When Leo's like, wait, do we have to pay? And Brika's like, we have the food. Drive. Something just hits for me with Brika's relationship to food and Leo's relationship to food. And then like that all kind of like culminating to these moments of like this trash chicken craziness. But because
and just his lack of knowledge about how things work and her being the worst guide possible.
Like the worst, like fucking, what do you call it? Role model, the worst example. But at the same time,
here in the level 3, we just drive away. We don't pay for it.
Well, if the guy hands you the food before you pay, which is what I think Brika was thinking, like, oh, he didn't dig our.
Oh, he done fucked up.
Drive.
That's on him.
My
That's on him at that
is
point.
literally the silence in that episode that I hope I left in when I was like, he hands you all the food, and you were like, all of it. I was like, yeah, more food than you even ordered. There's like other people's orders, and you were like, did we pay for it? And Sashel goes, drive.
But like on a real level, that's something Brika would just be like, nice, get out. Like, let's go. Like, I mean, I hacked a synth machine.
Bro, and it's like, who are you stealing from? It's
the last guy who put in his credit card information. She was just stealing from Krieger.
She's just stealing from Krieger. I meant from the trash chicken. Like, I feel like a lot
big
of
corporation. No.
Yeah, a lot of level 3, especially in the Outer Rim, you're just like, if you can steal from a corp, you steal from a corp.
In her defense, Sean, after giving us a bunch of free shit and walking out of the building the first time, got a promotion. Like, is it really that bad? And he was excited to see us the second time, and he fucking did it again.
I don't know if you got to. We'll see. The next time you guys are trash chicken, I'm going to make you guys
yet to be known. Yeah, we don't know yet.
Although I don't know if we can go back to that same trash chicken, not with Pippin in the car.
Pippin. Hi. Ooh.
Tasties.
Hey!
I don't know how you're going to cool it down.
Yeah.
Brown sugar.
Ooh. Oh, fuck.
Making, mom's making chile.
Yeah.
Chile. I love
Mom
that.
came in with a spoonful of something good.
She goes, is this too spicy for Laura? And I was like,
a little bit. Lemon and chili, lime can also help.
A lot of people, drop a little bit of brown sugar and cinnamon. That's it's becoming more popular at least where I'm from. I don't know if it's common everywhere.
Hell yeah. Does anyone want to share did I give you enough that stall long enough?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Go ahead.
Sashel, you want to go?
Yeah. So, okay. So apart from the bomb, because that's just all-time favorite of the entire campaign so far.
Wait, what about the bomb?
When I was like, if you pull over one more time, I will blow us up.
Yes. Beautifully done.
Yes. But so there was like one time, like, I think it was like my second episode when we were in the safe house and looking at all this information, they have all this information on us, blah, blah, blah. Leo is freaking out. And I'm typing at the computer, right? And then he's like, how are you not worried? Like, why are you? I'm like, does worrying solve anything? Like, I felt like that was like a contentious moment, but it was also like a life lesson to Leo moment where I was like, you are freaking out. Yes, I get you. But your anxiety is not doing anything.
Boom.
Like, it doesn't help.
That's the whole dynamic summed up in one moment.
Yeah.
And you also opened my eyes to who you are as well. Like, you're like the rational one that I can probably go to if I need a rational answer to something.
Right. Like, it's not that Brika's not worried. It's just that Like, that's not the thing that will help right now.
She's just being proactive instead of
put it aside. Yeah.
letting her emotions rule. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that was a really good moment for you as a player, me as a player, us as a party. And then, like, moving forward, like, now everyone knows kind of where Brika stands. It's not that she's not internally freaking out. It's just that you're not seeing it.
Yeah. And we've seen, and I think mine, which I'll get to in a second after commentary, we'll say this well enough, but like, we've seen emotion from Brika. We've seen that there is something under the surface. It's that in like a fight or flight moment, she is the more proactive option. She's not going to just freeze up or let her emotions like take over. She's going to make choices rational. Yes.
I personally think that Sashel, you had been concerned in the beginning about playing a rogue. We had a very long conversation about it. And I think a chaotic neutral rogue especially carries a lot of connotations, a lot of negative experiences for a lot of people. And I think you have found a way, if not the best way, to represent a chaotic neutral person in a party friendly. I know we've had contention, but like,
yeah, for sure.
Brika's just pragmatic. It's not necessarily that she's flippant or hurting others just to service herself. It just, she understands that this world requires taking advantage of people to survive. So like, the way you do it is so nuanced that it doesn't come across as selfish. It doesn't come across as, you stole from them, and then 3 episodes later they all are like, yeah, all right, we'll listen to Brika and the shit the fans will probably, Brika, you can have all our money. Like,
right. That actually, I'm just sidebar. I was confused in that moment.
Can I be completely real with you? My character, so Leo, it fully expects you to just be like the person that holds all of our money like all the time. Like whenever we get paid next.
No, I'm totally fine with that.
He expects it to be you because you're like you're gonna have like the fucking like Excel sheet where you like have all of our expenses and shit. Like that's how he envisions it.
Yeah, I actually like I was dumbfounded in that very moment. Like as a player, I was like, they're giving me the money?
They trust me, really.
Huh. But then I thought about it and I was like, if you give it to Crash, it's going straight to drugs. I was like, give it to Pippin, it's going to charity. He's just going to give it away.
Yeah.
If you give it to Leo,
Leo's going to get scammed. Yeah. He doesn't know how much anything costs.
Okay.
He washes his clothes in the river.
Also, because of my upbringing, and for Seb, both sides of my upbringing, no idea what money, like what the value of money is. Not to mention, I'm not from this world, so.
Right, like someone be like, "This hamburger is a Mac." He'd be like, "Okay." Like,
that's $10,000 for those who are not fucking wise to our fucking. $10,000 for a fucking.
Right. So then afterwards I was like, yeah, this makes sense. But I was like, wow. Like I steal from them and they're just like, yeah, hold our money. I'm like, okay.
But again, I think it is kind of a masterclass in playing a chaotic neutral rogue.
Truly.
So fucking kudos. Hats off. I know we give a lot of flowers out in this podcast. We suck each other's dicks, but
no, I appreciate it. I also just came to realize that my actual personality is chaotic neutral.
Yeah.
I don't know you super well, but that's what I would have called you.
I think I flit between chaotic good and chaotic neutral pretty heavily. Depends on the day. Depends on the size of the flamethrower.
Always chaos, though.
Always chaos. We should do that. Actually, we'll have a whole We² about we'll get as many of the people together as we can, and we'll talk about our actual alignments. Alignment is a spectrum, by the way. Don't even believe in that. Yes. That's a whole nother episode.
No, that sounds like a fun discussion for later.
I was sitting here as you guys were talking about alignments, like what is Leo? And you could probably name it if you wanted to, but I don't think that he actually falls into any specific category.
Exactly. That's the whole point. You nailed it. That is the actual reality.
I agree, but I feel like Leo's perception of himself is lawful good.
No, probably lawful neutral.
Yeah, I think he just
either
from
lawful neutral or
understanding-
neutral good.
There's
As
things
weird as that
Brika
sounds.
doesn't know about Leo.
Yeah,
that
from
me and him know
Sashel's
that
perspective, what
Yeah,
I
from your
feel that Leo, yeah.
But that means you're putting Pippin and Leo in the same boat because Pippin's
Yeah.
100% lawful good.
No, but Pippin actually is lawful good.
Right.
Leo
Like, I feel like
thinks.
Leo. What I said is Leo thinks he's lawful
Yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I think he thinks he's lawful neutral, but he probably wouldn't understand the nuance of enough to know the difference between lawful neutral and neutral good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. But
Yeah.
again, that could be we're sidetrack on another We² episode.
Right. Okay.
Surprise,
Yeah, but
surprise.
yeah, what's your famo, Charles?
What's your contentious fame?
Yeah, let me start with a minor one because I think it is valuable and that I remember it, and it's small enough that it's just a little tiny guy. I think it was our first time pulling over, maybe second time pulling over. We were in a parking lot, and Pippin and Crash were fixing the car.
Oh, the sketchy
engine.
parking lot. I got you.
The alternator.
And
on
I
the
was
roof.
trying to like talk to you, but you like kept like putting the brakes on the conversation and wheeling it back around. I think you were looking at a menu or something like that. And you were trying to like say it out loud or something like that. I can't remember.
She also noticed people were closing in on you guys.
Yes, and that's what I was going to get to. Is like, I think in that moment my character understood the rules of our dynamic. I'm not allowed, and I was going to mention this earlier. I'm not allowed to start off any real conversation directed at you. You'll butt in as
That's
you want.
probably true.
You'll butt in as you want, but I'm not allowed to go to you first. The way it works for me is I look at you and I ask a question that has a real answer, that has an answer to it. And in that moment, there wasn't necessarily a question, but it was like, I'm trying to have like an emotional moment. And you're like, there's people closing in left, right. Here's the menu. Here's blah, 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 blah. It's like all like this is happening. This is like, and that's where I learned the rules of our dynamic. Now, I later learned the depth of Sashel or of Brika as a character in my favorite session, my favorite scene inside of the Stitch in Time during the jam session. And it's what's crazy about that is the only thing we saw from Brika's perspective was a flashback sort of her as a child, not saying a single word, just whimpering in a closet. And I think we all kind of took away from that different things from that session, but we went into it. I think Seb said something along the lines of like, you guys still don't trust each other. I'm going to open up that door for you. And that's how we kind of like entered in before recording. That's kind of how we entered in, expecting that to happen. And the way that we did it, the way that Seb kind of played that out, for me, gave so much more nuance to Brika. And that's why at the very end of that session, it was probably lost on a lot of people. Maybe even Brika, honestly, because she might not have understood what happened between her and Leo, and that I looked over at her in the car and I fist bumped her. And for Leo, that was like his way of saying, I recognize you and I know you don't want to talk about it, but what we just had there is real.
Right. Yeah, I think that was a super deep moment. Also, Brika, Sashel saw that.
Yeah.
Brika
was like, what the fuck you fist bumping?
What the fuck? Yeah, what the fuck? I'll do it, but what?
I'll do it, but
because we didn't know what the other like Leo didn't know what Brika was seeing in that moment. Pippin didn't know what we were. Well, he kind of knew what we were seeing in that moment in a weird way. Crash especially didn't know what we were seeing, and
Right.
It seemed like because to Leo, he saw the dark shadow, the silhouette or whatever. He saw that as a personification of his dad, because in that moment he was transported to like his dreamscapes that he's been having for years. And he took that the same way he's taken dreams in the past, where he fights in it. He's sick of it. He's gonna push back against, this like this kind of darkness that has been chasing him for years. And he finally kind of won, at least like the fight, maybe not the war. And he realized in the end that that's not what he was fighting. He was fighting back your demon. And he only realized it kind of in hindsight, whenever he sat down in that car and looked over at you and realized what it was that happened there. It meant a lot for me as a character, because it was kind of like this like multi kind of dimensional thing that was happening to both my backstory and your backstory kind of simultaneously, and it kind of all wrapped itself together nicely. Obviously, major kudos and dick sucking to our wonderful GM for that.
Correct. I was gonna say that episode was like just wrapped, like stuff just wrapped boxes within boxes within boxes.
Yeah, but it's like so like clean, and it was like edible at the end. It was like you took like things, you took leftovers and you stacked them on top of each other, chucked it in the microwave, and it came out. And it was like, this is like cuisine. This is like
gourmet.
5-star.
Yes.
Like it made no sense
star
out of context, which is so funny that Pippin's perspective, it would have been that, but he also got the context because he's Pippin. But yeah, to like wrap all that up, all to say that like, it's unfortunate that Brika was not able to see through the same lens that Leo saw that dynamic, because like he feels deeply connected to you now.
See, but I think that that's probably more important for our relationship, because Brika doesn't feel deeply connected to anybody ever. Like it's not in her personality.
Oh, I mean, think about it, Frank. Even your relationship with Frank, he's trying to use you. Like
right.
Every person you ever met has been like, it's a business partnership.
Right. So yeah, but I think that like Brika she's like a mirror in terms of like how your relationship is gonna go.
Oh, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you like I said, like the first time you came at me with stubbornness, I came right back at you with the same thing, you know. But if you now have more respect for me and have some feeling for me, that'll come right back as well, you know. So it'll feel like a really genuine relationship. Like there's care. It's just not, you know.
Fucking 200 likes on this video, and we'll get a Leo Brika cover of A Whole New World.
Oh my goodness. Do I have to do it in Brika's voice?
I knew that. I can't do a Brika voice.
Oh man.
100 likes. 100 likes, because I don't want this to exist. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to wrap us up like that.
No,
that was perfect.
We're hitting like an hour and a half on this. I don't edit these, so I'm sure we've said things that we regret, but it's fine. Thank you very much if you've listened to this point. We appreciate the hell out of you. Please,
really
head over to the Discord. Tell us. There'll definitely be a discussion. Tell us what you thought about the episode. We can talk about it. You can come in. All of our players genuinely pass through there, so come by and say hi, talk to us, let us know that you're listening. And I'm going to end this the way I always end every We² episode. GG's, guys.
GG's.
GG's, my friends.